Hello and welcome to something a little bit different on the channel today. We're building up to FM22. We finished our long-term stories for FM21. So what are we going to do? Well, it's something that those of you who follow me on Discord will know about. It's something we've talked about a little bit before. I recently rediscovered some old memory sticks with all of my old saves on back to about FM 2012 or 13. And what we're going to do is find some of the save archives. We're going to find some of our old classics, we're going to load them up again, and we're going to have a look to see just how good or badly we've done in some of our most memorable FM saves of the past. So if you're looking forward to that idea and something that can tie us over and maybe even give inspiration for the new game, please do chuck a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe down below and turn that notification bell on because the FM22 beta is just around the corner and we are going to have loads of content as soon as it's out. If you missed the plans video, it's up in the eye above. You can catch up with that one. You can find the Twitch channel up there too. We've got regular live streams throughout this week in the build up to the new game. But for now, we're starting with the most modern of the off-camera saves before I started YouTube. Because in FM18, I started around July 2018 that summer and started uploading my first videos. And it was a little head coach save. But before that, I'd had about a 6, 7, 8 month bonanza with York City. Now, the reason I'm showing you this one is because, of course, we're doing an English Builder Club in FM22, and we're going to be doing it with a semi-pro club. Now, I said I've never won one of the big two trophies when starting as a semi-professional club in the National League North or South, the lowest playable league in England. However, this save, we started as a professional club in the National League North and had a very different outcome. As you can see by the fact, we're on this screen with as few spoilers as possible, but we're on 20 grand a week. And if you could see behind my head, you could see the next match is against Manchester City. We are 15 years in the future. FM18 starts in July 2017. We are on the 21st of August 2032. So let's have a look at what we've achieved with York City and now with England as well, who we're also managing. You can see that up in the top left here. The one thing that's really struck me going back to FM18 is we talk about how bad some of the regen faces are and whether they're up to scratch or not for 2021. They've come a long way since this game, let me tell you that for sure. We're going to start by having a look at the club profile screen so you can see what we've achieved and what the path was with York City. My Builder Club story, I used to do it every year before YouTube, and this one, probably one of the most successful we've had in a long time. Now that's because if we go back to our first season, we started a trend of 4 successive promotions. And it wasn't just that. We were first in the National League North, first in the National League, first in League 2, and second in League 1. 4 automatic promotions in a row. And let's be honest, those of you that have started in the bottom tier with a professional club before will have seen this. You will have seen it happen. You will have seen the success you can have. It can be quite easy to pick up League 1 and 2 players early doors because a lot of National League clubs are semi-professional and you're able to just take advantage straight away. You can see now we're a big Champions League club, we're a big worldwide rich club as well, but it didn't go all our own way. Quite often in these saves, and you'll probably see it in FM22 when we're managing Hemel Hempstead if we don't get sacked too early, is you often get stuck at League 1 and Championship level. Now thankfully we managed to avoid that in League 1. However, as soon as we got to the Championship, we started finishing mid-table. Not a disaster by any means, we finished 11th, then we finished 12th, and the third year we were promoted as runners-up. And again, we started a build in the Premier League then. 14th place, straight up to 6th, but then stuck at 4th, before gradually going on to win the title. Now, there's a very key reason that this rise has been meteoric from this point of getting promoted from the Championship onwards. More so than I've ever had in any save, and we'll see that as we go through them in the future, because I've got plenty more of these from older FMs too. There is one key factor that has made this a lot easier than any other save I remembered, and it probably is home of my favourite ever player in FM from Regen World. I've been asked it on stream a lot and I've mentioned a player in this save and I've never been able to show you until now. So let's take a look at them. We'll go through to the squad so you can see the position we're in at the moment. We have got brilliant players, and I mean world class, value wise, quality wise, England internationals, Brazilian internationals, we've got the lot. The top rated player is Ricky McEachran, although I'm not sure if he's top of the reports list. He is joint top. So Ricky McEachran is 4.5 star ability, 61 caps for England at 24 years of age, and he is someone we signed for 97 million from Arsenal when we had our big first moment in the Champions League. You do get to that stage where you do spend money, and it's something I've been accused of for a long time in my saves, which is why I wanted to start with this one. Yes, it's the most successful and whatever else, but it's the one where I really let my hair down and spent big money. If I take you through back to Clemens Garth at the bottom, who's also 4.5-star ability, on 180 grand a week, signed for 35 million from Hoffenheim. Big deals. Next one, Nielsen Santana, 4.5-star ability, Brazilian international. If we look at his history, 17 million. We got him a little bit earlier. He's been a superstar. Carlos Diogo, another Brazilian international. He's 4.5-star ability. Got him for 11 million. But the star man, and the man I've often talked about as being my favourite ever FM player, up there with a couple from the San Marino Challenge, is George Powell. Now, George Powell is the best player I think I've ever seen come out of one of my academies. He's the first Ballon d'Or winner I ever had from an academy, and that's after 13 years of playing the game. 84 caps for England, 69 goals, 19 finishing, 19 first touch, 18 dribbling, 16 heading. He's got everything, 18 composure. He's actually a very similar profile to Harry Kane. He's not quite got that electric pace, albeit he's got better acceleration, and he's not the strongest in the world. But everything else he's world class. We've worked him up on a penalty taking. He is a proper superstar. Now, you are just above my head getting another little spoiler there. You can see England won the European Championships in the summer, and this man has just carried me for club and country. He came through in our second championship season. You can see 1 assist, not the greatest season. Then had a season where he played mostly off the bench as we got promoted. 3 starts, 31 sub appearances, 4 goals. We reached the Premier League and I went, right, you're going in now. He broke into the team very early, scored 18 goals in 22 starts, followed that up with 19 goals, and since then has scored more than 20 every year. Actually has the record, which you can see remarkably, as a very low injury prone player, which is different to Harry Kane. He has played 38 Premier League games, 5 seasons in a row. Bit like the Inaki Williams of York City, if anyone's got Bilbao history. Now, a fair few of these are off the bench occasionally, resting him for the Champions League. He doesn't play many cup games, you can see that most seasons. However, George Powell is a great. There's 1 season where he scored more than 1 a game. There's 3 seasons in a row where he scored over 30, and he gets assists galore as well. He's a machine. And that 28-29 season, by the way, if we go back to the club screen, let me just show you where we are there, is the first season we won the league. And he carried us to that title. Utterly phenomenal. So, someone we can be very proud of. I think you'll probably be able to see why he's my favourite ever regen. I mean, it's 336 league appearances, 238 goals, 123 assists. We're talking Messi, Ronaldo levels here for goal contributions. He's that good. So he is the superstar of the save. We've not had the best start to this season, actually, but it's where we finished off in the saves. Probably why I got frustrated. And what more can you achieve after that? And winning the European Championships with England, with your star striker that came through your youth in taking a championship, stealing the show at the Euros. You could argue there's a lot more to achieve, because if we go and look in the history, we may have made it to the top of the game and won the Premier League 4 times in a row, but we've never won a European trophy. It was always the stumbling block in this save. George Powell struggled in those big games in Europe sometimes, and Nielsen Santana often the man who stepped up. We do play a flat 4-4-2, which is possibly a contributing factor. If I was playing it now, 3 or 4 years later, I'd probably switch tactic, put in a holding midfielder, or put in a number 10 instead of a second striker. But regardless, it's been one hell of a meteoric rise. We've won FA trophies, Checker Trade trophies as it was called then. We've also won 3 League Cups, 1 FA Cup, and 4 Premier League titles too. And George Powell was hunting down the most league appearances for the club record. Just about 150 odd away now. We go and have a look at the rest of the records. He was already top of the league goals for the club. And at 25 years of age, he had many years ahead of him. But we just got to the stage where we started making content. I mean, it's a shame really, because if this had been my first ever save on YouTube, it probably would have been enjoyable. I come to this screen as well, just so I can show you a little stat behind my head. You can see the figure. That is our highest transfer fee received, £106 million, for Marcus Lutz, who was our former left winger. And that's one of the differences in this save. I talk about trying to be realistic throughout. We signed him for 96, and it was our only opportunity to make a profit, so we did it. And it's something that I've talked about a long time before. I don't just hold on to players for the sake of it when I'm in England. If there's a player we can sell and get in a suitable replacement, like we did in Clements Garth, for a fraction of the price, we have to do it. We have to work to that model still. If I show you my transfer history at this club, we've got a transfer budget of 377 million, more than our bank balance, bizarrely. But you can see two big £47 million signings this summer. Leo Uman from Dortmund, another young left winger who's going to be the backup, and Sean Powell, who's going to compete with the first two to get in the squad. However, that Lutz sale mean we make a big profit. Jamie Wood sold for 20 million, a big striker. We were always in the business of making sure we sold players if it was financially right. Michael Campbell, 42.5 million to City, and we've bought in as good a striker for 47. So it's not just for show on camera. I've always been of that type. We will sell our best players if the offers come in that are right for the club. If we can get a good replacement in for the same price, it's great saying, oh, it's good market value to get 107 million for Lutz. But if there's no left winger available of the same quality for less than 120 million, it's not good market value. The only ones I'm always reluctant to sell and won't do unless they're dropping well away from the squad is the ones that come through the academy. George Powell is the only one I will cling on to in that save. The rest, they all have their price. So let me take you back to the very start so we can see the financial building of the club. Because don't forget, in real life, they got to this stage from 2 successive relegations from League 2. So we signed Josh Coulson, well-known name in non-league, now 35 years of age. But we made pretty much nothing. It was tiny deals at that level. I'm just seeing if there's any players in these lists that have become legends for us in future saves as well. We'll do that as we go along through all of these. The next year, again, not a huge amount, 120 grand signing, but nothing that makes us go wow. Just to show how FM potential can be wrong sometimes, we had Chris Mepham on loan from Brentford. Never made it in this game really. The next year, 2019-20, Shane Lavery from Everton. What a player he is now in the Championship. Isaac Buckley-Ricketts, I remember being one of my early heroes in this save. Had Ben Godfrey on loan in League 2, shows how well we were doing. But on the sales and signings front, no money spent either way. Into League 1, we signed a player for £14,000. We had some really good players on loan again. We got the likes of Lloyd Kelly. We managed to sign Ben Godfrey for a free in League 1. What a player he became for us. Same for Aston Oxborough actually. But the big deals were starting to happen out of the club. Jake Hessenthaler, who we had at Dorking Wanderers in our FM20 save, 140,000. Harry Beautyman out for 100. You can see always at this point, we had the mind to sell people for a profit. And that is the way to aid your development off the pitch. Because if you can get those facilities up, get that youth recruitment up, you've got a better chance of bringing through better youngsters. And I see so many people complaining that they don't get great players through their youth intakes. But you've got to put yourself through this pain at the start as well. Let's move on to when we started getting stuck in the Championship. 21-22. You can see a lot of the players we had on loan we bought in again. This time, note, we loaned in the likes of Trevor Chalobah. Didn't spend much money, just 22 grand on a kid from Woking, but sold nearly 6 million. Isaac Buckley-Ricketts, I mentioned he was an early legend for me. The first massive sale of the series. Now a 34-year-old coach, but player-wise, scored goals galore for us in 3 divisions, then went for big money. So you can't complain, and actually, he scored all the way to the end of his career then. But as well as him, a few other big moderate sales. Dean Love, kid we signed for 14 grand a couple of years earlier, went for £2.5 million. They were breaking into the first team. Buckley-Ricketts was our star striker at the point we sold him. But we sold him, we improved our facilities, we improved our youth recruitment and coaching. The next year we got George Powell through. So you can't say it doesn't add up. Let's move on to the next year where we did start to spend a little bit to improve the squad. You can see 4 signings there of 6-figure sums. However, if we move on to the sales, Shane Lavery out, 5.5 million. A couple of others for relatively big money too, which again means we made over a £6.5 million profit. Next year, this is the big one. It's the year we got promoted to the Premier League. Of course, George Powell was just coming through. We still didn't spend much, only 275 grand, and most of that on a loan for Tom Lawson, who was a striker to help us at the time. Sales, 11 million. Callum Camps, we got on a free, you saw it a couple of years earlier, sold for over £2 million. If we go further down to this list, even in January, our star striker was Stephen Humphreys, we sold him for £7.5 million. We knew at that stage George Powell was going to become a star. But in the middle of the season, when we were chasing promotion from the Championship, we sold our best striker and loaned in a kid from Celtic to try and replace them. We took gambles and we made a profit financially. Thankfully, on this occasion, the recruitment was great, but it could have worked out another way. You have to take those hits sometimes. Into our first Premier League season, this is where the tide started to turn. It's always the year I spend the most money, because I try to bring players in that are maybe younger, that have come from relegated Premier League clubs quite often, and try and get the ones that are coming in on lower wages so we make that profit eventually. But just keep your eyes peeled on those transfer fees, because it looks like a lot of money. We'll see some of those names reappear later down the line. We did still sell a couple as well, but it was more a year where we had to stay up because we knew the financial benefits. 54 million when you're getting 100 for staying in the Premier League is nothing. You can see that was the first loan of Marcus Lutz as well. For the second year, again, not a huge amount going on here. We signed £47.5 million worth of talent, some really good ones as well. We continue to improve, we continue to press up the league. We sold a few of the Championship players on. The only big sale really was Angus Gunn. He went for £5.75 million, which I think is the same as what we signed him for. £6.5 million, so there's one we made a slight loss on. The next year, though, is where it started to kick off. We spent our £60 million again. We kept building that side. We got into Europe for the first time, of course, too. But now we started to sell. £8 million for Andre Dazelle, who we signed for next to nothing years earlier. Bednarek goes on for £4 million. Slight loss, but kept us in the Premier League, did a solid job for us, and we got a return on our investment. If you sign those players at 27, 28, you're not going to get your money back. You can see some younger players, some of the stars that are still here now, the likes of Shuto Abe, still at the club, still top class. Worth 65 million, we got him for 2.8. That's big recruitment. The next year is where the big sales started too. Okay, we still signed big, bringing in the likes of Nielsen Santana, Jelenic, who's still our first choice right back come the end of the series. But we start to see sales as well. Ed Francis went for 2.9 million. Andrew Kiff, a man, not a player we've mentioned much before. We signed him for 11.5, sold him for virtually the same the year after. Just proves we all make recruitment mistakes as well. But going down, Hakim Abdullah, sold for 15 million. Looked like a bad deal when we signed him for 9.75 a few years earlier. Scored goals, then got sold on for double the money. Nobody outside the best academy stars are indispensable at our football club. Further down, 16 million for Lascaris. He went off to Southampton, a player we'd signed 3 years earlier for £12.5 million. And we also sold Ben Godfrey for 3 million, who we'd got on a free a few years earlier. Let's move on to 28, 29, when the big deal started to happen. Jamie Wood, who we sold on this summer. McEachran, 97 million. Diogo, a star of the first team now too. For £83 million coming in as well. 22.5 for Dwight Marshall, a younger player. 10 for Goldrick, 10 for Martinov. Another one that was sold on in January, and Bonomo as well. Was involved in our squad, was playing games the first half of the season, but sold for double the price we signed him for. That was the first year we won the Premier League, of course. Powell's best ever season combined with McEachran signing made the difference. But let's move on to the years after that, where we've retained the title. 162 million spent the next year, but that includes 96 for Lutz, who we made a profit on, as you know. We sold Innis for a slight profit, Ryan Sessegnon for a big profit, about 4 or 5 times what we got him for. Then the likes of Draper, Evans and Douglas for £15 million a pop. We started to sell big as well. Into the following year, this is where it all happened. The big turnaround, £160 million signed. We got to a worldwide scouting range. We started to sign loads of youngsters, loads of wonder kids that were being picked up by the scouts. You can see Clemens Garth, who's now become a first choice player. But look at the ones going out of the club. Robbie Harrison, remember him? First Premier League year, signed for 13.75 million, a massive signing. Played loads of years, sold for 3 times the amount, and a bit more as well, by the way. 47.5 million to Middlesbrough. Would have been 28 or 29 at the time as well. Rob Simmons, he's gone for big money to Liverpool. Signed for 3.7, sold for 6.75 the year after. Jack Toyne, £25 million he was sold for. He was one who came for our academy. You can see he played a fair few games, then just started to fall away. So we let him go. So unless they're the very best, even the youth intake stars can be sold. Bradley Henderson went for 55 million to Chelsea, a stalwart of our side the years before, but had just dropped away from the team, signed for 20 million, sold for 55. It's why I'll always sign younger players and pay more money for them, because I know I can get them on lower wages and sell them for more money later down the line. Mark Taylor was sold for 30 million. We'd signed him for 12.75 in our second or third Premier League season. Again, was always a solid player, but we can't turn down that kind of money. 15 million for Kieran O'Connor, a bit further down. He, I think, was a youth intake player. He was. Came through, had spells out on loan, only actually played 2 league games for us, but now has gone off for 15 million to Huddersfield and will be a rotation option there. But it doesn't end there, does it? If we keep going down, we sold a couple more. Hugo Stewart, £15 million to Huddersfield. Came through the youth intake, made the profit. That's why we invest so heavily in the facilities. Brad Shinks for 3.8, but then again, in the January, we sell one of our better players. For Atletico Madrid for £65 million, Myronenko was let out of the club. Again, you can see, had been a stalwart of the team, just fell away that season. So the man who signed for £24 million was then sold for 65. The next year, signed 16 million's worth of players, not done a lot of work at all actually. You can see that Michael Campbell who came in though, sold for big money the year after. And we sold some big ones. Erivaldo, 30.5 million, had been our first choice left back for a number of years. Just fell away, made 5 times the money on him. Scrolling down again, Taylor Mansford, £9 million. He was a player that came through the academy, didn't really break into the first team, so we've sold him on to help out another club. This is the policy I apply in so many of the saves. It's what you can expect to see when we get ourselves up to a Hemel Hempstead, for example, in FM22. We will always sign younger players with the idea that we want to get money back for them. We don't want to build a squad of 35-year-olds. We don't mind having 1 or 2 dotted about, but we want to build a young squad and continue to be a selling club, because that is the easiest way to grow off the pitch. It means this York City save finished with basically the perfect facilities. State of the art for training, superb for youth facilities, exceptional junior coaching, extensive youth recruitment, and a new 12,500 seater stadium. I mean, you can't ask for much more, can you? So this is a series that will probably run sporadically on the channel in future. I just want to show you some of my old saves, some of my favourite FM moments from years before I started making the videos on YouTube. And this was certainly one of those. Producing a Ballon d'Or star, producing players that could compete at the very best, and having a meteoric rise. It's not something that happened often, but I had to show you this save first, because particularly for George Powell, I'd mentioned that name a number of times. And even starting as a professional club, 15 years in, hadn't won a European trophy. So it shows the challenge we're going to have with semi-pro Hemel Hempstead, who in real life are in disarray. If you did enjoy this episode though, a look back into my old save archives, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe down below and turn that notification bell on for daily FM22 content. The beta's not far away now, and we'll be going all out as soon as it's released. So keep your eyes peeled for that. You can follow us on Twitch up in the eye above too, regular live streams, including daily ones from our beta save as soon as it's released. And there's links to the podcast channel and a couple of other bits up there too. But a massive thank you for watching, your continued support as always. It is greatly appreciated. Let me know what you thought of this idea. I hope you enjoy this series because it's something I'd like to do more of in the future. And hopefully, see you next time.